Hello. I've been actually live for a little while now, and I'm gonna make sure that I'm not double broadcasting here. I apologize if you guys have been waiting for a while. Yeah, I was almost double broadcasting my voice. But hi, I'm testing out new streaming software. I apologize. I've got the latest version of Streamlabs going on, as well as the YouTube interface, which I've never actually broadcasted with. But welcome to my live stream. I've got a ton to say. I've actually been on, or I thought I was broadcasting for a while. I was actually, um, I was actually talking through this whole intro, trying to get used to this whole new stream setup. Now, let me explain to you what's going on before you like get mad at me and say, "Hey, we've been waiting for you for a while, and what the hell is going on? You haven't been live." Let me explain. So, I've been using the classic streaming software on YouTube for a while, and the classic streaming software had a pretty easy to go interface. Not that the new one is hard, but it's different. You know, like when you're used to like the same breakfast every day. You have cereal for breakfast every day. And then one day someone changes it up and gives you eggs and toast and bagel and whatever. It's not that it's bad because it's delicious, but it's different. So you're a little bit confused over what you should eat first and what will be good and anything like that. It's kind of like, I guess, the same way. I don't even know if whether to call it the same way, but in any case, it was a bit of a kind of a new experience for me. So I was unsure of what I should do next or how I should manage. But when I started streaming off of my software, which is also new too, I'm using a completely different version of the OBS software to stream. I had the older version previously. Now I'm trying to get used to the newer one. You know, I broadcast that live, but then on YouTube, I can see myself on like the browser that, okay, you're broadcasting, but I didn't realize that I had to hit the go live button. So I apologize for being late. It's totally my fault. But without further ado, welcome to this live stream. You can actually see comments that I put like on from my different channels to see if I can monitor. I was like, "Hello, am I going on live? I don't even know." So, if you're actually here and you're not distracted by today's current election in the US, then that's great because I'm trying to distract from that. I'm trying to distract myself from that. I actually put out a tweet on my Twitter. If you don't follow me on Twitter, I'm at Magnus547. And it was my political opinion. And it's not so much a political opinion, it's more like an opinion about the current president that we have right now. So if you're interested in seeing my opinion, whether you agree or disagree, it was just my opinion. And I actually got a lot of positive feedback from that, which was totally appreciated. I was super happy to get that. So thank you guys for that. But today's episode, without further ado, we're going to talk about the Kickstarter rewards for Shenmue 3 that I recently received and about the campaign for Shenmue 3 as a whole, and then I'll get through some online gaming that you guys can join me on and kind of go from there. So, thank you, welcome for joining for me, whether you join me live or after all the chaos, which I totally understand if you want to put that before this video. It's understandable. Also, I've done a few recently on my channel, a few game sales guy, kind of like a story, almost like a soap opera that I've got going on in this channel. You should definitely check those out too. I'll probably post a kind of link to that or whatever after this video is re-uploaded, because that's an ongoing story that I have, of course, written the script for, and I'm continuing to film, which would definitely be fun. So I totally recommend that you guys check that out when it's up and funded. But first, I'm going to start off with the point of this whole video, and it's the Kickstarter rewards and actually how I got my hands on them and then what they are, and I'll show them to you guys. Actually, I haven't even unwrapped these Kickstarter rewards, so that should be interesting because I kind of like opened the bag to this one, but I didn't really look at it too much. And this one is totally still in the box, so it'll be pretty exciting to upload that one. Oh, or actually unwrap that one and see what it looks like. So I'm super hyped. So first of all, thank you. If you're new to this stream or new to Shenmue fans, definitely subscribe. I don't know how many of you guys are watching. According to this little window that I've got right now, it shows that I've got one viewer right now, which is awesome. It's just me and you. If you're watching this, much love to you, because I appreciate the fact that it's just you and I watching right now and talking right now and having a deep conversation right now, because we figured that this is more important than anything else. So thank you for watching. So with that strong connection that I've got with you, I'm going to continue. Now, first, when it came to these Shenmue Kickstarter awards, let me explain to you how it worked. Now, I was an original Kickstarter backer for the Shenmue 3 project. Now, Shenmue 1 and 2 were amazing games that came out for the Dreamcast and the Xbox back in the early 2000s. Now, for a sequel, it left Shenmue 2 left you kind of hoping for like a third, because it ended on a cliffhanger. And for many years, fans have been wanting a sequel to that game with almost little to no success. And after many years and many E3s, Electronic Entertainment Expos, that were rumored to have a sequel, finally in 2015, a Kickstarter was announced on the PlayStation 4, on the PlayStation floor, saying, hey, you know, if you want this game, back it up in Kickstarter. And I watched that live announcement, and I took part in that live announcement, and I gave money for that live announcement. The way Kickstarter works is that there were several tiers that you can actually contribute to, and the higher the tier, basically the more money you gave, the more rewards that you'd be entitled to if the project was successful. Now, the original project goal was $2 million. And that project successfully was funded with over $6 million. So basically all of those tiers that I paid for and was hoping to get, I was able to successfully get, because the game came out. That was my number one desire. But then, of course, because I had paid for those additional perks, I would be promised those additional perks as an investor. Now, the game was released almost a year ago, which is exciting. And now we're in 2020, basically, a year of lockdown. And after a year of lockdown, which caused, unfortunately, some delays in some of those additional perks that Kickstarter investors paid for, you know, we had to wait a long time to get those. But now they've finally arrived. And mine arrived as well last week to the wrong address. Yes, to the totally wrong address, because I had moved this year, but my Fan Gamer, which was kind of like the site that you had to update your address to, was still showing my old information, and I had totally forgot to update that information. Even though they emailed me and said, hey, make sure your address is correct, I didn't. But they sent it to the old address, to my fault, at no fault of their own. And I didn't expect them to send it now, to be totally honest. And I had to figure out a way to get those rewards back to me. So I devised a plot. I'm going to go to my old address. Now, I lived in a community that had its own like little mailroom that you can access after you get through a security passcode. And I was hoping that my security passcode would work. So I drove to that building, and I went past the doors, and I entered the security passcode. And fortunately, it worked. And then that mailroom had a ton of like boxes and unfiltered stuff from everyone's mail. And I'm like, I guess everyone's ordering online these days, which makes a lot of sense. But after digging through all that mail, I got my rewards. Here's one. Now this one I kind of peeked in, and here's the other one which I didn't really peek in at all. So 2 rewards, and we're gonna open it live together. Now after I open these live together and I kind of give you my live reaction, I want to talk about how the entire campaign experience felt to me for Shenmue, and then I want to kind of talk about the future, and then of course this is called gaming in the dark, so I want to see if I can play a little bit of Street Fighter online while I continue to talk to you guys and see if I can win any matches, if there's anyone online to begin with, because I think that game is fun too. And when it comes to Shenmue, fighting means a lot to the community, the whole fighting technique. So because street fighting in general means a lot to the Shenmue community, I wanted to, incorporate that into the whole thought process. And I was going to play with a character who actually reminds me of what Ryo Hazuki could eventually turn into, especially if he dedicates himself to martial arts as much as possible. But without further ado, let's open up the first of my rewards, Kickstarter rewards. Now, this is... this is awesome. This is actually a capsule toy. I had put in for a capsule toys, and I actually had reached the goals of like capsule toys. And I wanted to actually, let me make sure the volume's okay. I wanted to actually make sure that I paid enough to actually act like Ryo Hazuki. And I'm going to open this up for the first time. Let's see if you guys can see that there. So this looks like it's Chai. Capsule toy of Chai. Let's see if it's lit up a little bit there. If you can see it. Pretty cool, huh? Alright, so let me open it up as if I'm Ryo. Actually, he's a lot better than opening this up. Oops, I dropped the toy. Now it's wrapped in plastic, but it's pretty cool. I'm gonna open up. I don't know if I should open up the plastic or not, but it's totally Chai. It's like Chai doing a little kick. Hang on. See, like what? Little cool kick right there. Like I'm actually really excited about that. I'm totally happy that I got him. Nice. Nice. I dropped a little. It came with a little pamphlet. It says Shenmue 3 Backer exclusive toy capsule box set. And it has Ryo, Shenhua, Chai, and then Ryo in a forklift. This is pretty cool. I guess I'll show you guys this too. Let me pull that up. See? Kind of cool, huh? It's a little nice like box art set. And this you're not gonna find anywhere. This only goes to the Kickstarter contributors, which actually makes it a pretty cool feeling. I'm not going to take it out of the plastic. I'm going to keep it in the plastic because I think it holds value there. Oh, but the plastic, I don't have to rip it. I could just kind of pull them out. So I guess, let me pull that up. There you go. A nice, cool look at Chai. He's actually pretty nice in there, but I'm going to put him back in his plastic. And have my own little capsule toy as if I'm part of the Shenmue community and Shenmue family. I like that. Capsule toy, just like the Shenmue, just as if I was in that whole world. Now I kind of like crumpled it up in a little weird. He's not even upright. So if you were like got this toy, it's like, what the heck happened to him? He got a little beat up there. But that's all right. Keep that going. Why not? I'm so happy. That's so happy. I got that going. But now here comes the granddaddy of them all. Now this is an art book. Now there was a tier that was announced that you can actually have it signed by Yu Suzuki, who is the director of the Shenmue series, Shenmue 1, 2, and 3. I couldn't pay for that. I wanted to. I mean, my dream would actually be to actually meet Yu Suzuki, the director of Shenmue. And no matter what it takes, I want to one day actually get that honor. Um, I don't know what I would have to do in order to do that, in order to actually meet him. I don't need a signature. I don't even need a picture with him. I don't need to prove to anyone else that I met him. I just want to meet him and ask him a ton of questions. A ton of questions. Probably questions I shouldn't ask him because it would all be spoiler related. But it would also be kind of his mindset as a human being. But in other words, it would be a dream come true. But another dream come true is actually partaking in the development of Shenmue 3, which I can honestly say I had a small part in, as well as many thousands that actually had a part in. And as a reward, I get this, the art book. It's not signed, but that's okay. So I'm opening up for the first time. Well, actually, to be totally honest, I took the tape off. So the tape is off because I didn't want to be struggling with tape while I'm talking to you guys live and be like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. The tape will come off. Yeah, I'm having trouble with it. Oh, well, no, don't worry about it. I'm opening it up now, and ooh, bubble wrap. You ever get that feeling with like bubble wrap where you're like, I gotta pop it off. I love bubble wrap. I'm going to keep this bubble wrap for later. Okay, let's unwrap it together. Okay, we're gonna unwrap it together. See what's going on. Ooh, look at that. Shenmue 3. We're talking real life. Shenmue 3. Now it's wrapped in plastic. I guess I'd have to rip off this plastic. I totally haven't ripped off this plastic, and that's what you get for gaming in the dark. Everything's dark. Let me see if should I get my scissor? I'm gonna get my scissor, and this is gonna be a little bit risky, but that's fine. Give me one moment. Had to reach for it. So here's the scissor. I want to be very careful with this. I don't want to rip this book, but I'm opening it. Now this I don't plan on reselling or anything like that. So it's still so the resale value just went down because I already ripped it open with the scissor. I don't care. I'm keeping this forever. Shenmue fan for life. Let me make sure I treat it right. I'm not good at opening up like this type of stuff, like plastics. I get so nervous that I keep shaking. Alright, ripping off the plastic. Just so that you know, it's totally happening live. I held it up for you guys. I didn't want my first reactions is happening live right here with everyone watching. Now it's still got that cover on, and I'm gonna open it up, and here you go, a totally black page. Well, what do you know? So this cover is a little loose, I guess. And oh, is that a signature? What type of whose signature is what? I didn't expect a signed okay. All right, I'm actually reacting to this. Like, what's going on? Did I get a? That looks nice. I don't know if it's anybody's signature, but I'm actually gonna flip to like the second or third page right now, just so that you can see. Oh man, but this is nuts. I'm just gonna react by myself and totally like. I'm kidding. I'm gonna show you guys a couple of pictures. I'm gonna flip to something a little interesting, but this seems to have artwork from the actual game. I'll pull it up a little bit so you can see like different sections of Shenmue 3 that you might recognize if you actually played Shenmue 3. And it's just the basic artwork of each section as they were designing it. See, as they were designing it, you can see different sections of the levels, and I'll give my review as I go through it. But as the story goes on, it tells you like Ryo retraces his steps through Bailu village, and then you can see like different portions of the levels. It's pretty cool. I guess I'll give my. I mean, it's an awesome collector's item to have. I'm super pleased to have that as a collector and as a person who actually participated in the entire Shenmue 3 experience from Kickstarter to launch. This is the final. Just so that you know, that book and the capsule toy, these things were what I invested in and what I gave a little bit more money for. So let me pull them up again. So this is what I invested for. I invested for the game, and I invested for the Shenmue 3 capsule toy and book. 3 things. And guess what? They delivered. They delivered everything I expected. And there was a lot of speculation about this game. Now let's really get into this conversation when it comes to the Shenmue 3 legacy and what happened. And hopefully my light doesn't die out. I got a spare battery for my light here. It's what happens when you get gaming in the dark. Sometimes things happen and you just gotta work with it, as that's happened before. But that's okay. I've come prepared for this. So anyway, back to the topic. So Shenmue 3 in itself was a game that we all thought was not going to happen. Shenmue 1 and Shenmue 2 were incredible games that were released on the Dreamcast, and then the sequel, Shenmue 2, was released on Xbox in North America. But because of, I guess, insufficient sales and little excitement and failed sequels such as Shenmue Online, nothing ever happened with Shenmue. I'm going to take off my glasses, actually, because it's causing a reflection, and I feel a little more comfortable this way. So Shenmue 3 was pretty much in the rumor cycle for many years when it comes to year over year people talking about it's going to be announced at E3. It's going to be announced at so-and-so conference, and it never happening. But then when it was finally announced and it was finally promoted as a Kickstarter, I can honestly say, it was when you least expected it. It was after the Shenmue craze was dead, because Shenmue was relevant during like the original Xbox and PlayStation 2 era, okay? So we were hoping for a sequel then. Nothing happened. But then the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 era happened. Hoping for a sequel then, because that's the following generation of consoles. Nothing happened. So Shenmue 4 and Xbox One is out, right? And it's already relevant. And at this point, we're like, all right, Shenmue 2 ended on a cliffhanger, but we accept that we're going to have to just think of the franchise as something that's no longer relevant. Yu Suzuki is no longer with Sega, so the chances of it happening are null and void. Shenmue hasn't even put out like a remake or a re-release of the original 1 and 2, so what are the chances, right? But then Shenmue um gets announced as a Kickstarter in 2015 at E3, and a whole slew of excitement. Heck, I wasn't even relevant as a channel until after that was announced, and now I'm talking about it right now. You know, at least whenever I get to release my opinion and have these conversations with you guys. So here I am, excited. I give my money. I didn't give my money actually the first night. I believe it wasn't until the second day, or at least the second morning, that I gave in money for Shenmue 3, the project. And the goal was 2 million. I actually contributed before it reached 1 million, but I tracked and recorded right when it hit 1 million, and it broke the record for fastest Kickstarter project to reach $1 million. And then short time later, it reached $2 million. So it achieved its goal really quickly. Fastest video game project to be funded in such a short amount of time, which was amazing. But then, okay, it's funded. It at the end of the campaign, which was a short time later, it got over $6 million worth of funding, which was super exciting. Those that had never heard of the Shenmue project or Shenmue at all were investing in it because they wanted to just be part of that whole like popularity wave. Videos were being released on YouTube and anywhere else. Articles were written just about the Shenmue franchise, just to talk about like how relevant it is and how important it is. Hello. And it was basically a discussion of like, okay, let's get on that hype train that everybody's talking about Shenmue 3 and how important it is. But then shortly after, the excitement was just starting to dwindle. You had writers and you had articles being produced to try to get attention and using Shenmue to try to get attention, but to get attention from the negative side. Why? Because controversy creates cash. That's the truth. If you want clicks, if you want advertising dollars, then you want that money from those advertising dollars. And if there's no more good news to spread about Shenmue, then you definitely want the negative news to spread, because negative news will get clicks as well. Like I said a moment ago, controversy creates cash. So then what negative thing can you say about Shenmue at the time that can cause clicks? And that was basically this. The fact that early on in the campaign, PlayStation said that it was going to contribute some money to the project. And because Sony was going to contribute some money to the project, people were wondering, well, why are you asking for contributions from the Shenmue community when PlayStation was already going to commit? And there has to be a lot of talk and a lot of articles saying, okay, no, Sony's contributing money, but Sony wasn't even really backing the project to begin with, without knowing that there was going to be community support. And from Sony's perspective, they were only going to contribute really like maybe some advertising, some press, and that's about it, and maybe a little bit of development, but not really that much. So the project really was dependent on the fans, but because of those articles being written that spoke about how the project was accepting funds from like Sony, and that it was just really taking gamers' money, really did a disservice. But at the same time, my perspective is that any press is good press, right? Whether negative or positive, people are going to be curious as to what is Shenmue and why are people paying so much attention to it, negative or positive, and maybe this is something that I should play. So some time later, now the original launch date for Shenmue was going to be December 2016, if I'm not mistaken. But there were many delays that happened, and the delays were like, okay, so what? By that point, when it was delayed, it wasn't as big news as it was when it was originally breaking records. Why? Because newscasters had moved on from it, and it wasn't so, I guess, groundbreaking at that point. Until later in its development, when I'd say it came to around early 2019, when you had legitimate investors in the franchise, and then you had the exclusivity deal with Epic Games saying Shenmue will launch first exclusively on the Epic Games launcher on PC and then PlayStation 4 as well. That's when people flipped out. And honestly, that in itself created news, which led everyone to jump in on again, all the YouTubers and all the publications to say, oh, Shenmue in itself is betraying its community because now they're Epic Games exclusive, and this is not what we signed up for. We wanted a Steam key. But for all of those true investors in the game, granted there were a few that were angry, but those that wanted the game produced, wanted Shenmue 3 produced. And before I forget, hello Mini Shenmue 24. So excited that you're here, and I hope you get your Shenmue Kickstarter item soon. But all of us that have been waiting for Shenmue 3 for the longest amount of time, we were happy that we were getting the game anyway. But there were those that were upset. Why isn't it on Steam? But if you looked at the Shenmue page, the Kickstarter page, it never really promised it on Steam. It said, we're making this game. If you hit these goals, here's what you can possibly get. And that's it. So again, a lot of backlash happened. And a lot of these news companies saying, hey, all the investors want their games, their money back because it's not what they promised. We wanted Shenmue 3. We gave our money for Shenmue 3. We wanted it created. And all of these YouTubers or whatever, I actually made a couple of videos on this. One featuring like Yongye, him unable to pronounce Shenmue. He called it Shenmue. And then he was saying, of course, that we're all pissed because we're not getting it on Steam. It was, again, trying to get clicks. I don't think he's ever made a Shenmue video after that just to get clicks. And again, his channel's growing. He's got hundreds of thousands of subscribers. He's one way. I don't have that many subscribers, but I'm not after what he's after. He's after hot items to stay relevant because who knows if that's what he does for a living. I don't have this channel for a living. I do this channel because I'm passionate about video games. I'm passionate about what I enjoy, and I'm passionate about Shenmue. And Shenmue in itself, I want to see it to be completed. So after that debacle, and after everyone no longer cared about Shenmue, those who didn't know and called it Shenmue, after they went away, thankfully, please go away. We don't need you. The Shenmue community still stuck it in together, waited for the launch, got Shenmue 3 late last year. And whether you loved it and you hate it, Yu Suzuki tried to give you the game that you asked for that felt as much as possible as it could to the originals. And yes, some of the characters were a little spotty looking, right? Like some of them, in my opinion, some of them look like cartoon characters while others look like more realistic. But they were it was it was interesting to experience that whole story, and it was an experience that he gave you that was relatively close feeling as the originals while adding some modern elements to it, and then really trying to rework the fighting engine to one that he can actually use, since he wasn't able to use any of the Virtual Fighter engine that he did for the first two games, which it's unfortunate, but at the same time fortunate, because he's trying to make it a different experience and his own, because he created the Virtual Fighter franchise, but now he's making it a more modern flavor of his own. But he really did it for the fans. If you play Shenmue 3, and honestly, if you not only invested in Shenmue 3 or played Shenmue 1 and 2 and really invested in those games, if you played Shenmue 3, the feeling that you get, at least the feeling that I've gotten, um, was so heartwarming, because I knew his intentions. His intentions was honestly, and this is Yu Suzuki in particular, it was honest thank you to everyone who gave a damn about this franchise. Whether it's a small portion of the very large gaming community or not, he catered to the small portion. He took a risk, but because he could have said, hey, I'll make it appeal to all audiences. I'll make it so that it's as universal as possible and everyone can love. But knowing that, he made the conscious decision of making it for the fans. And that's a risk in itself. But you know what? It makes sense, because it was the fans that paid for the project. It was the fans that gave more than $60. I gave much more than $60 to that project. And he gave me something that I wanted. He gave me an experience that was Shenmue. It was different. It was modern. I mean, I can tell you that the backgrounds and like the areas were absolutely gorgeous. Controlling was a little weird, of course, but again, you can't expect much from a semi-low budget. But the backgrounds and the areas and the environments were a lot more. And because I got into the mini games and I got into the environments that we could actually explore and be around in, I was fully invested in that. And by the time I finished the game, I can honestly say I enjoyed so much of it. And then they had bonus add-on content. And for a game that was actually totally kickstarted from the ground up, come on. Can you ask for anything more from such a low budget franchise? Heck no. So experiencing that from a Kickstarter investor perspective, I could say that I'm at this point, especially when getting these prizes. First of all, the fact that I have a capsule toy that is authentic, that is Shenmue, that is from the game, that is from the makers that really invested in it, and then I have this book. My mission from this day forward will be, if at all possible, to have Yu Suzuki sign this. And not only Yu Suzuki, but another important person, Corey Marshall. I think that not only from a voice actor perspective, but from a person perspective, I believe that Corey Marshall, who was the English voice actor to Yu Suzuki, is really someone who I not only consider an amazing voice actor, and the fact that he can just jump into a role after so many years and just play it so naturally and be so excited about the character, it makes me love the franchise even more. And there are voice actors who just do they're voice actors who can play a character well, right? But then there's a different level of voice actor that not only can play a character well, but can make you love the character, can make you say that nobody can play that character like he can. And no one deserves that voice actor. No one deserves that role like Corey Marshall can. Like, for example, there was a trailer that happened when the Kickstarter was launched, and it had someone else take the role of Ryo Hazuki. And it kind of was like an imitation to sound like Corey Marshall. And the moment I listened to it, I'm like, no, it's gotta be Corey Marshall. And the fact that Corey Marshall as a person makes you want him to play. It's kind of like, I compare it to Joker in Batman the Animated Series. There's only one voice actor that can play the Joker, Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill is the Joker. Mark Hamill is an excellent voice actor, but when you see an animated Joker, you want Mark Hamill to play it. It's not always Mark Hamill, but when it's an animated Joker, you almost want to wish it was Mark Hamill that played the Joker. So when you hear Ryo, you want and you wish that it's Corey Marshall to play Ryo Hazuki. And that's what I'm holding for. More Axable, hello, greetings. I'm in the US as well. And thank you for joining this live stream. So, Corey Marshall is Ryo Hazuki, in my opinion. And I don't know if you guys have recently heard, but there is an anime that was announced for Shenmue. And this happened, I believe, specifically and solely because you had the Shenmue 3 come back to life, breaking records and being relevant for so many of us fans, that we're going to get an opportunity to actually expand the family of Shenmue fans by incorporating that storyline into an anime. And it's going to be on Crunchyroll, it's going to be on Adult Swim, so definitely look out for it when it's actually launched. And honestly, I don't know whether it's going to be Japanese dubbed only and with like subtitles, but if they actually have English voice actors, again, to me, not having Corey Marshall as Ryo Hazuki is like not having Mark Hamill to play the Joker in an animation. You can try to watch it, but you're wishing the whole time that it was the actor who signifies that role, which is Corey Marshall. And I will honestly say that I, as of this day, feel like I have a relationship with Corey Marshall and I consider him a friend, and I not only am a friend but a huge fan of Corey Marshall. So that's, I mean, like, dreams come true thanks to this franchise. I mean, I can honestly say it's just an amazing feeling. Blindy Bear says, "Hi, I wish they kept the same voice actor on Resident Evil, but I'm glad they kept the same for Shenmue." Now, the Resident Evil franchise, I'll add to that, Resident Evil franchise, they use different voice actors for the remake. I actually was not completely against it. Again, I'm a fan of the original Resident Evil games. When they were released, I was playing them in the late 90s. But Shenmue I consider different because the Resident Evil franchise were remakes, so it's like kind of like reimaginings or retelling of the stories. Shenmue hasn't had a retelling. Shenmue is still trying to tell its story. Shenmue's trying to finish its story. Shenmue hasn't even begun to really get to where it potentially could be with a completed story. And I think that having a video game series and an anime kind of coexisting will help. Resident Evil had its own movie series, which Resident Evil movie series is the highest um, revenue producing video game series that was turned into a movie of all time. So video games generally have been unsuccessful when it comes to movies, but Resident Evil was one franchise that actually was pretty successful, and that I give it up to Capcom and to the Resident Evil series as a whole. Me personally, I like the first two movies, and then the other movies, bleh, like kind of like messed up. Paul W.S. Anderson was the director of those movies, and he had a good idea, but I think when he gave up the director's chair and then the other directors kind of went everywhere with it, he was just kind of like, well, I'll just make it my own and do what I can with it. So I don't blame the director. The director did a good job initially, but then afterwards it was just kind of like, I no longer care. I don't know what's going on. So that's how I feel about that. But Shenmue in itself was a different franchise that was absolutely incredible. So, I mean, I've kind of gone on with this stream for a little while, but I was going to play Street Fighter, but I'm actually a little tired. So I think I'm going to call it a wrap from now. But thank you for joining me. Thank you for being live. And definitely consider hitting that subscribe button going forward. But as always, you can make my day if you subscribe today. Bang this and I'm out. I'll play a game next time, but I guess I've been talking a lot. So see you guys later, and thanks for joining me live. It was fun. Bye bye.